Ever just like been somewhere, minding your own business,
Yeah.
when suddenly you hear something so completely random, it stops you dead in your tracks?
Oh, I can only imagine, yeah.
Well, that's exactly what happened to Conan O'Brien, and is what we're diving into today.
Okay.
It's a story he told on his podcast, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, about this totally weird encounter he had with some fans.
Mm-hmm.
He's just trying to have a normal conversation on a balcony, and then, out of nowhere,
Someone yells, Kedakai, as God made her.
it's just so out there.
Yeah.
And get this isn't even the first time Conan's run into this Kedakai thing.
Really?
He even said James Lipton once used that phrase, pointing at a painting.
What?
A nude painting of his wife, no less.
Oh, wow. That's,
It's like something straight out of a comedy sketch.
It is. It's wild. But
It-
it's kind of fascinating, This totally nonsensical phrase, this Kedakai, it's like it morphs into this weird symbol for Conan's fans.
That's so true. It's like an inside joke, but it's playing out on this huge public scale. So what is it about these shared moments, these often really bizarre moments, that brings people together like that?
I think on the surface, it's just the pure absurdity of it all, right? I mean, just the word Kedakai, it's inherently funny,
Uh-huh.
it's meaningless, and yet they deliver it with this dramatic flair, like, as God made her.
Yeah.
That unexpected combination, that's comedy gold right there.
It's like you're hearing a punchline, but to a joke you didn't even know was happening.
Exactly. But I think it actually goes deeper than just a cheap laugh.
Okay.
This seemingly throwaway joke, just a random thing on a podcast, it takes on a life of its own, and it reveals something about us, about humans.
There's more to this Kedakai thing than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Okay, so think about it. You hear this strange word, this Kedakai, and at first you're like, what? But then you hear Conan's reaction, you see other fans joining in, and all of a sudden you're in on the joke. You're part of something.
Like a secret handshake.
Mm.
Or maybe a secret code word. Something like that only true fans are in on.
Precisely. It creates this sense of belonging, a shared experience that goes way beyond just being a fan of Conan.
Right.
It taps into something very primal in us, this deep desire for connection, to be part of a tribe, even if that tribe is united by a completely nonsensical phrase,
And it's really interesting how this whole Kedakai moment happens on a podcast.
Yeah.
Conan even says that these fans, it's like they were waiting for him, almost like they planned this whole thing.
It's true, yeah.
It really highlights that unique connection that podcasts can create.
Absolutely. It's like we're hardwired to find meaning, even in things that seem completely meaningless.
Yeah.
Think about it. You see it all the time. Memes that blow up overnight, catchphrases that become these cultural touchstones, inside jokes that cement friendships, all of it.
That's true.
These things, they reflect our fundamental human need to connect with each other, to find common ground, even in the most unexpected places.
And Kedakai is like the perfect example of that. Well,
Yeah.
maybe not perfect, but definitely a strange example. It really makes you wonder, though, why is it absurdity, this randomness, that's so effective at forging those connections?
It's like when you share a silly inside joke with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
The joke itself might not be objectively funny, but it's that shared laughter, that moment of understanding, that's what makes it special.
It is.
And in a world that often feels so serious, so heavy, these moments of pure, unadulterated silliness, they offer a much-needed release.
It's like a pressure valve.
Yeah.
A way to just let off some steam and connect with others through shared laughter.
Exactly. And that shared laughter, it creates this powerful feedback loop.
Okay.
The more you laugh together, the stronger that bond becomes.
Yeah.
And before you know it, a nonsensical phrase like Kedakai becomes this symbol of that connection.
It's like that feeling you get when you find a hilarious meme.
Yes.
One that perfectly captures something you and your friends all relate to.
Totally.
It's not just the meme itself, but that feeling of, I get it, you get it, we're all in on this together.
Yeah. Precisely. It's a shared understanding, one that goes beyond language and logic.
Right?
And it's incredibly powerful, Just think Kedakai might be totally meaningless on its own.
Yeah.
But within the context of Conan's fan base, it's transformed into the symbol of shared absurdity, almost like a badge of honor.
A secret code that unlocks this whole other layer of meaning and connection.
Right.
So next time you hear a phrase like Kedakai, something that just seems to be catching on, don't just dismiss it as another silly trend.
Yeah, take a moment to consider what it might represent. The shared humor, that sense of belonging, the basic human need for connection that we all feel.
It might surprise you.
Definitely.
This all reminds me of those moments you have with your closest friends. When you have those inside jokes, the ones only your group understands.
Yes.
Those moments are pure gold. Makes you wonder, What's your Kedakai? What seemingly nonsensical thing do you share with your friends that strengthens your bond? Something to think about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So think about it. You hear this word Kedakai, and at first you're probably thinking, what?
Yeah.
But then you hear how Conan reacts to it, you see other fans joining in, and suddenly you're in on the joke. You're part of
It's
it.
like a secret handshake.
Exactly. It's this shared experience that goes way beyond just being a fan of Conan. It taps into something much deeper.
Okay.
Like this primal need we all have for connection to be part of something bigger than ourselves, a tribe.
Even if that tribe's unifying feature is a nonsense word.
Right, exactly. Even if it doesn't make sense on paper.
And what's so fascinating is how this Kedakai moment unfolds on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Conan even mentions that it seemed like these fans were waiting for him, like they planned the whole thing.
Yeah, it's like they were just waiting to unleash Kedakai.
It really speaks to that unique connection podcasts can create.
Absolutely. It's like we as humans are hardwired to find meaning even when it's not there.
Right, like we're always searching for patterns.
Exactly. You see it everywhere. Memes that explode overnight, catchphrases that become these cultural touchstones, even inside jokes with friends.
Oh, absolutely.
They all point to this basic human need to connect with each other, to find common ground, even in the most unexpected places.
And Kedakai really highlights that in a bizarre sort of way.
It does, doesn't it?
But it makes you wonder, what is it about absurdity randomness that's so effective at building those connections?
You know, it's like when you share a silly inside joke with a friend, the joke itself might not be funny to anyone else, but it's that shared laughter, that moment of understanding that makes it special.
It is. It's about the connection.
Right. And in a world that often feels so serious, those moments of pure, unadulterated silliness, they offer a much-needed release.
It's like a pressure valve, letting off steam and connecting with others through shared laughter.
Exactly. And you know what? That shared laughter, it creates a powerful feedback loop.
Okay, how so?
The more you laugh together, the stronger that bond becomes.
It's like a positive feedback cycle?
Precisely. And before you know it, a nonsensical phrase like Kedakai becomes a symbol of that connection.
And it creates this shared language almost.
Yes.
Like you were saying, it transcends logic even.
Exactly. And it's powerful stuff.
It is.
Just think about it. Kedakai, by itself, it means nothing.
Right.
But for Conan's fans, it's become this symbol, this badge of honor, even for those in the know.
It's like a secret handshake that unlocks this whole other level of meaning.
I like that.
So I guess what we're saying is next time you hear a word or a phrase like Kedakai, something that just seems to be catching on, don't just write it off as another silly trend.
Yeah, take a second to think about what it represents: the humor, the sense of belonging, even that need for connection we all have.
It might surprise you.
It might.
This whole thing really reminds me of those inside jokes you have with close friends.
Oh, totally.
You know those moments where you have your own language almost?
The bo-
Yeah, cool. Makes you wonder, what's your Kedakai? What's that thing you share with your friends that only your group understands? That strengthens your bond. Something to think about.